that. And I wish to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples. Tumtumay-Waiton or Belcare is home to an ancestral village of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. We're thankful to conduct our work within their territory. And prior to, I'll call the meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. And I'd like to, if I could, on behalf of our council, take the opportunity to indicate that Paula Richardson has been appointed acting Chief Administrative Officer until the conclusion of the search and the successful onboarding of the new Chief Administrative Officer. And I want to be, on behalf of our entire council, offer our congratulations to Paula for the work that she's done since she first arrived in the village, but in particular during these last times. So I know I speak for everyone on council, thanking you and wishing you the best.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that.
And if I could look to number 2, approval of the agenda. So I would look to the regular council meeting, that the agenda for the regular council meeting, July 11th, 2022 be approved as circulated. And I see Councillor Wilder moving and Councillor Snell seconding. Any discussion? Not seeing any. I'll look to call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye. And I note that it carries in the affirmative and the ayes have it. So we're going on to the adoption of the council meeting held June 2020 to be adopted. And I'll look for a mover and a seconder on that, please. Councillor Snell, thank you. And Councillor Drake, thank you very much. Moved and seconded that the regular council meeting held June 2022 be adopted. Any discussion or comments? Not seeing any. I'll look to call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Just a correction, June 20, not June 2020.
Oh, June 20. What did I say?
2022. You said 2020. 22.
Okay, we're there now. Thank you, though. I appreciate that. So we, the vote, the vote carried, correct? Yes, did we vote on that? Sorry, I got mid-interruption, but thank you for that, Lisa. We called the vote and it carried?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So on item 3.2, this is a special council meeting of June 27th, 2022. And I am going to, because it had one item, and that item was the official community plan. I have on that night declared a conflict and I intend to do it again. I've declared a conflict of interest and recused myself from the council meeting, noting that I am not entitled to participate in the discussion of the matter or to vote on the matter because of a direct pecuniary interest in the matter. I'm a director and a member of a group wharf association and one that is subject of legal action. In addition, the Village of Belcare applied to the Supreme Court and the justice provided the following. Now regarding the petition itself, I am of the view that having declared a conflict of interest in relation to the Bedwell Bay Wharf Program report, it would be inappropriate for Mayor Jamie Ross and Councillors John Snell and Lisa Wilder to be permitted to participate, discuss, and vote on any matter arising from or in relation to that report. And so at this point, I will recuse myself from the meeting, and then I believe I'll let Paula arrange for the person who's the deputy mayor to handle it. And then once that is dealt with, I'll come back into the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, just 1 second so I can put Mayor Ross into the waiting room and okay. And now if you would like to assume the chair, Deputy Mayor Drake.
Thank you very much. So we have, we're looking for recommendations to receive the minutes or to approve the minutes of the special council meeting of July 27th, 2022. Do I have a mover? I see Councillor Snell as moving. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wilder, thank you. It's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye, so it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And
Okay, I'll just bring
Paula, we can bring back the chair.
Mayor Ross back in. Okay.
Okay, so we are now on item 4. There's no delegations and presentations. So I will go to number 5, reports, and I'm going to ask Paula to introduce the report and the planning consultants, and just indicate that her acting title was for corporate officer, and it is now acting CAO. So again, thank you, Paula, and you can go through and introduce that.
All right, thanks so much. The Village of Valcara has been exploring new ways to easily manage and store the village information using a digital interface. So we've had Brooke Pooney has kindly assisted us to get this GIS information together. They would like to show us a brief presentation. I'd like to invite Laura Beveridge and Anika Bersi to join us and to just give an overview of what we've got in store.
Great, thanks, Paula. So good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Anika Bersi. I'm a planning assistant with Pooney Group, and I've been responsible for creating the village's GIS, or Geographic Information System. So I'd like to take you through the platform and explain its many features. As you've likely read in your report, the platform is an external facing map that residents and visitors can access to view information about the village, locate trails, and view infrastructure. There will also be a very similar internal facing platform, which will act as a file management system, allowing staff to manage more sensitive information like parking tickets and bylaw infractions. It is standard practice amongst most municipalities in Metro Vancouver to have such information digitized and available online. Before I get started, I'll just give a brief overview of our data sources. So all of the property data has come from BC Assessment and the province of British Columbia's open source data. And this is how we created the property parcels that you'll see on the map in a few moments. Zoning and currently enacted OCP designations have come from the village's policy documents. However, any policy and infrastructure changes can be easily incorporated onto the platform. Other data, including information about parks, facilities, trails, and sensitive ecosystems, has come through a data sharing agreement with Metro Vancouver. So with that being said, I'll get started on our short demonstration. I want to save time for questions if there is any. So. Okay, so when you access the viewer, this is what you see at first. So a map of the village. In the top corner, there's a search bar, so you can search addresses or places in the village. The legend provides you, of course, with the legend. You can see all the symbols for all of the items on the map. And then our layers. So these are things you can switch on and off depending on what you're looking for. So in this, right now, as you can see in pink, we're showing the many trails in the village. So I can click on a trail, and then information will come up about it. So this is the Jug Island Beach Trail. Leashes are required for dogs. Yeah, a few things about cycling and pedestrians there as well. Like I mentioned, this map does show zoning and parcel data. So I can turn on the zoning layer, and then I can zoom into, let's pick the Village Hall. And I can see here that it's zoned CI1, Civic Institutional, and I can see the OCP designation there as well. So there's, there's lots of different layers on this map. I invite you to kind of have a look and play around, turning things on and off, and checking out all that we've kind of put together here.
Good, thank you very much.
Okay, Laura, do you have anything to add to that?
No, we welcome any questions you may have. We included most of the information in the staff report. But yeah, available to answer any questions you may have. One thing I would add is this is not public facing yet. This is still like internal. We're just until obviously didn't want to go public until we had approval and sign off, but it would be ready to go as soon as you're ready for it to be shared publicly.
Okay, good. And I see, thank you, Annika, for that, and Laura, and welcome to both of you. And I see Councillor Snell has a question from our council.
Yes,
Go ahead,
through the chair. I thought that was really impressive and a real lot of neat features there. I picked up on your comment that it was going to, these sort of things cover the entire Metro Vancouver. So if one sort of focuses in on Belcarra, can one zoom out and then cover off areas such as Anmore or Port Moody if one chooses? Thank you.
Annika, did you want to respond to that?
Sure.
Okay.
So unfortunately, the way that these things kind of work is it's municipality by municipality. So you'd have to go to Anmore's website to kind of view their data. Yeah. So this is just Belcarra that we have put together.
Just to add to that, typically the municipality for which the map has been created, you can only access your own information, the degree that we're showing here. So for example, the trail network that was shared with us by Metro Vancouver, that was being shared for Belcarra purposes.
Okay, thank you for that. Just to expand on that question further. So if somebody was particularly interested in exploring trails one weekend, they would have to be aware that that the Belcarra trails perhaps connect to trails in Anmore or to Port Moody, and then explore both Anmore and Port Moody to get the full picture. Thank you.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank
There
you.
are also Metro Vancouver
Yeah.
trail maps that are sort of separate from the GIS system that we're using. So if they were really looking for detailed trails, they would probably have for a larger area that covered a larger area, they would probably need to go to a more detailed trail map system.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Councillor Snell and Councillor Wilder. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Laura and Anika, through the chair. So will this also show areas that there's no parking available in Belcarra unless you go to the public areas in Belcarra Regional Park or Sassamat? So if they want to come and use a park and it shows that there's a park here, Jug Island Trail or wherever, you can't park here. So you need to go somewhere else to park. Is this going to show this kind of information?
Anika, I think it can, right, Anika? If we wanted to.
We do actually have parking lots, the two, the one at Belcarra by Sassamat Lake and the other one closer to the water. Those are both labeled on the map.
But can I just elaborate a little bit through the mayor, through the chair?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Is that even though it looks like there's access coming into Belcarra, does it show that there's no parking? Like you cannot park anywhere unless you park in Sassamat Park or Belcarra Bay. If you want to come down to, for example, Jug Island Trail, and we've been asking Metro Vancouver for years to define the signs so that visitors do not come through our area, that they go through Tumtuaton Way. Will they show that? And we've been trying through Google Maps and TomTom and all these other map charts, trying to get them to avoid coming through Belcarra. There is no parking through here. So if they want to go to those parks, those trails, you can't go through Bedwell Bay. You have to go through Tumtuaton to access these places. That's really important. That's been a real big headache for a long time.
Okay, and I think Paula is on to tell you about, well, go ahead, Paula, and then.
would it be possible, Anika and or Laura, to add a layer that exhibits where there is no parking? Can we, because we don't
Yeah.
have any parking on Belcarra streets. There is pay parking available for the park in both lots, but we don't have any parking available unless you're a resident. So maybe we could talk about adding a layer.
Or
that
visitor,
indicates that.
or designated visitor.
Yeah, you have to have a parking permit in order to park in Belcarra. So is that is something that we could have a look at, putting a layer on to the GIS to show that parking?
Yeah, of course, that's definitely something we can add.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I'll get in contact with you about adding a layer about that now that it's been brought to our attention. Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Okay, great. Thank you
Much
very much
appreciated.
for that answer then. And also Councillor Wilder, your request for that piece by Metro has been conveyed to them in terms of at the junction so they can do it. So I would say that that is in progress, but this is a good idea. So I'm looking right now. We haven't moved the motion, so why don't we just prior to going out to our audience, let's get a mover and seconder. You'll see there's a motion to receive, and then and part of it is that council directs staff to purchase the GIS viewer license at an annual cost of $170. So let's see if we can get a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Stell moving and Councillor Drake seconding. Okay, so it's on the floor for discussion, and we'll go out to I believe we have Joe Elworthy. Joe, we can't hear you.
Let me fix that, okay?
All right.
Yeah, very progressive, great development in technology for accessing all of that stuff. So my question, and I'm not going to belabor here tonight, is that, of course, this is $175, rather small amount to get involved in here, but the second phase is one, and that's somewhat more expensive, and I'd be more concerned about cybersecurity issues and things like that when it came to parking tickets and all of that. But that's not on the agenda for tonight. This is the initial phase, so I can certainly regard this as a progressive move. And thank you for your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate that. And looking around, seeing if we have anybody else in the audience, and I'm not seeing anybody. Joe's gonna slowly lower his hand, and we'll go back to thank you, Joe, and we'll go back to council. So it's now, we've had a chance of motions on the floor. You've heard from an audience member, so it would be appropriate. Any other councillors like to comment on this? Okay, so I'll look to call the question. All those in favor of the question, raise your hand and say aye, and I know it carries in the affirmative.
Aye.
Okay, so at this point, I'd like to thank both Annika and Laura for coming and presenting on that. We really appreciate that. And thank you for your work. And it's an exciting piece, and it holds a lot of promise for Belcarra. And thank you very much for the detail that you put into that. And we will give you the Belcarra money back guarantee. You are welcome. You are welcome at any point to just quietly leave. And we thank you for coming, but also don't feel compelled to stay the night. Good to see you, and thank you to both of you.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Anika.
Bye.
thanks, everybody. Okay, and Paula, if you could outline the report 5.2, please.
Okay, so we've got a corporate policy regarding council correspondence. Councillor Drake had requested that staff work on a policy to handle incoming correspondence addressed to mayor and council. And so the policy is attached, and it's just a draft to It's submitted for council consideration. Policy provides that any and all correspondence as defined will be added to a council agenda and thereby made public. Draft policy also makes provision for withholding correspondence addressed to mayor and council, and if such correspondence is deemed inappropriate, offensive, misleading, harassing, or threatening, likewise, anonymous correspondence will also not be included on the council agenda. For correspondence that's withheld, there is an appeal process included in the policy, and the correspondence in question will be added to a closed council meeting, and council will determine whether it'll be made public or not. The policy ensures that that the correspondence will be on an agenda, and the writer will be notified if it isn't for whatever reason, and that gives them the opportunity to appeal.
Okay, thank you very much, Paula. So it's in front of council right now. Do you want to move it and second it and get it on the floor? Moved by Councillor
Oh, I'll move it.
Snell. Okay, thank you very much. And seconded by Councillor
Wilder.
Wilder. Okay, so it's on the floor appropriately. Any discussion by Councillor Drake? Anybody from council want to open up on this? No.
Yeah, pardon me if I might just say a word. I seem to be having a problem with my laptop tonight, but yeah, I think this wraps up a number of issues we've dealt with over the last year, and it's straightforward, but it also provides clarity. So someone who feels that their correspondence really ought to appear in the public agenda has an opportunity to appeal the decision not to include it. And otherwise, I think the policy is pretty straightforward and virtually replicates what we have been doing for many years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Drake. And any other councillors? Seeing none, we'll look to go to the audience, and I'm not seeing anybody in the audience wishing to comment. So we'll go back to council, and it's on the floor for any further comments. Seeing none, I'll look to call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. And I know
Aye.
it carries in the affirmative. The ayes have it. And we are now on to the reports from the mayor and project leads. So the mayor's report, I had on June 23rd, 2022, and I let council and the audience know that I was going to go on the Metro Vancouver tour of the Coquitlam water treatment plant. And I can say that it was a fabulous tour. It is a stunning setting. It is cordoned off from the public, which makes that unique from other places in other ones, particularly in North America. And it has served as a water supply since the late 1890s, 370 million liters of water per day, or about 1/3 of the total drinking water demands of our region's 2.7 million residents. And thanks to regional and local government, the per capita water use has declined. And Metro Vancouver has, particularly on this, they're looking at a project, but they're looking to create water conservation and ensure that we can hold off on some of the larger projects for longer. And I would say in this case, Coquitlam, City of Coquitlam is working on that. Our watersheds, the dams, the treatment facilities, reservoirs, and the water tunnels are very good. And it was interesting to listen to the different people talk about the processes up there. And then as we went through, the territory was just, it was stunning. We were on a school bus, and we had a vehicle go ahead, and we went through a number of the different parts. So I wanted to share that with people, and just the good work that Metro's doing in terms of the water treatment and also to try and do the conservation. And the second one is a Vancouver Fraser Port Authority meeting. I was there, and I was able to follow up on the work done by council at a previous meeting in terms of the designated sewage areas, and our local MP had come in and provided some support, and had linked up with Councillor Snell to hopefully do some work. And I was able to talk at the port about that. And Paula was very good. We gave them a heads up, and then we've provided all the correspondence over the years. And they were quite interested in why it had ebbed away. So we believe that based on the material we've given them and the fact that they know it's kind of come to life again, we're hopeful we can make some process on that. And then it is, the other one is a very good news. The Eagle Ridge Hospital has completed their department expansion. They did it in 2 parts. They had the first part was phase 1, new separate entrances for walk-in patients and ambulances, a redesigned registration and triage area to improve privacy and flow of patients in designated separate areas. That was completed on September 21st, 2021. Phase 2 has been recently completed, and the provincial government through Fraser Health provided $32.5 million, and the Eagle Ridge Hospital Foundation, which many people here in Belcarra contribute and support, contributed $5 million for a project cost of $37.5 million. And the new areas that have been added in the second phase are 4 new isolation rooms for people with infectious illnesses, 2 new resuscitation areas to increase care spaces for trauma patients, and additional hand washing stations to help reduce the infection. In 1984, when Eagle Ridge opened up, the hospital's emergency department had approximately 20,000 patients seeking emergency care every year. That number has now more than doubled to approximately 50,000 patients per year. So this expanded emergency department has 39 treatment spaces, up from 19. The new space is approximately 3 times larger, increasing from 714 square meters up to 2,206 square meters. And it allows for quality emergency care and spaces better designed to meet the growing patient needs in Tri-Cities. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about our local residents who have supported the foundation, but in particular, the ones who work there and do outstanding work. So when you get to this revamp, redesign, better emergency, you have the usual good caring care from the people in our village that work there in a variety of capacities. So I wanted to recognize that, and I'm willing to take any questions. And if there aren't any, Councillor Snell, go ahead.
Yes, if I might, through the chair.
Yep.
I'd like to embellish your comments a little bit on the designated sewage.
Sure.
It's particularly appropriate right now because, as a lot of residents have pointed out, we seem to have ended up with a lot of boats that would have taken the appearance of being permanently anchored at the end of the bay. And this discussion has talked around designated sewage. We've had no dump zones and everything else. And in fact, Belcarra has always been a no sewage discharge area. And there are signs at the entrance to the bay to say that. And if one goes to our website and looks under the community banner and down to Transport Canada, you'll see 2 links that take the reader right through to all the current regulations regarding the dumping of sewage around our coast, and also the sort of marine sanitation devices, or MSDs for short, or holding tanks, marine heads, whatever you want to call them, and all the regulations regarding that. A designated sewage area is quite different. There are a number of protected bodies of water around the British Columbia coast where there is low flushing. And not only is there no dumping of sewage, the absolute prohibition of boats without any form of holding tank exists. So it means that some of these places like Montague Harbour, if you have an old boat that does not have a holding tank, you just cannot go in there. It's not a question of you can't dump. It's a question that you are prohibited from going in there. And this is why we are pursuing the designation of a designated sewage area for Bedwell Bay. The other comment that came up was that the having a controlled moorage in Bedwell Bay, and that was floated a few years back. And this was following an initiative of Port Moody, who ended up having a lot of derelict boats in their basin caused by them being evicted from Falls Creek. And they really found no way of controlling it other than for themselves to generate their own designated anchorage area with a whole load of rules and regulations for anybody to drop anchor there and visit the town. They were prohibitive, and consequently no one really wanted to go there, and that took care of that. It's a difficult subject to control boats anchoring, because if you look on any nautical chart, there are areas that are designated an anchorage. And it is quite within the rights of anybody that's got a boat to go and anchor in an area that is designated as an anchorage. So the issue here is controlling the boats that have become, before they become derelict, and also those boats that have become liverboards, and that is a tough one. Now, as a side comment, literally in the last couple of days, there's been quite a lot of media coverage of the fact that the vessel licensing program is changing dramatically. Right now, anybody that has a licensed vessel, and this is a BC license or a 13K license, it's been a free service, whether you register, deregister, change of ownership. That fee, there's a fee coming in that's going to kick off, I believe, around $15. And there may be a surcharge on top of that. And that surcharge is specifically to fund the removal of derelict boats when they become derelict. And it's a program that's worked very well in Ontario and also in a lot of areas in the US and also in Australia. So it's a global problem, derelict boats, and this is how the authorities have found a way of dealing with it, is to collect the money from boaters to pay for the removal of the derelict stuff. So I'll end there, but any question, that's fine. So there we go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Wilder, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I'm not sure I'm going to end on that one, I'll tell you. I just wanted to, in addition to Mayor Ross's statements on his report, that him and I together joined the opening of the Springs on Thursday, which was a 20-year project in the Tri-Cities for the United Church down there. And it was just a brilliant event. It was the Catalyst Community Development Society, the Inlet United Church, Insight, Share, St. Andrews, Port Moody Housing Society. And it was their grand opening of their most brilliant development that they put through in Port Moody, where they have not only housing, like low-cost housing, and places for children and the church, and it's absolutely amazing what they've done. And it's taken them 20 years to put this together, and to be part of that opening on Thursday night, it just tickled my heart to be there. And I just wanted to congratulate the Tri-Cities and everybody that was part of that, to put that together and to bring that to fruition. It was absolutely like out of this world. It really was. I mean, everyone says it takes forever. It really does take forever to get things done. And this has proven that it has taken 20 years to put something like this together. But going through that, my heart was warmed. It really was. And I was really glad to have been part of that. And I wanted to thank them for inviting me, as well as Mayor Ross, to be part of that. So, and congratulations to Insight, to the Springs, the Catalyst, to Share, and everyone involved.
Yeah. So Thank you, Councillor Wilder. You and I had spoken. I was very glad that you've been able to express what happened at the meeting. It was absolutely inspirational, and
Yes.
Share is in it, and they have a dedicated space for students with special needs, with significant special needs. They have the same in their housing, and they've been able to get a group that takes equity. They've been in together since 1952, and families banded together. They purchased homes and they use the equity as the power to be able to make this happen. But I would also say that of the place for the young people, for them to come during the day, it was very powerful. Lisa and I met a couple from Anmore who were part of a group of 6, I believe, who contributed all the money to house that right from the beginning. And I had a chance to talk with the father, and they have a son who is benefiting from that. And it shows the power of being able to get things done. And it also shows, with so many motivated people, how Lisa said, how difficult and long it takes to get that type of needed housing in our province. But yeah, it was very nice to share that night with you, Lisa. And it was every once in a while, all the events that I go to and that others go to are always good. But this one, I think, did touch our hearts, I would say. So thank you, Lisa, very much.
Yeah, the Smurthwaite's were amazing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
as well as everyone, all the founding members that we met, all of them. And it was just so
Yeah.
heartwarming. It really was.
Yeah.
How hard everyone worked and how long they worked, and how, I mean, it was so inspirational. Every story that we heard, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad it was there.
Yeah. And there were in the audience were some Belcarra residents who
It
have been
was.
a big part of that since the beginning. So
Maureen was there. I saw Maureen. And
yeah, it was good. So if I could, thank you very much, Lisa, for that. Really appreciate that. And I'm not seeing anything from the audience, so I will go to asking if Councillor Drake on item 6.2 would be willing to outline the next item.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Yeah, this is an item that was deferred from the previous council meeting. It has to do with the discussions that have been ongoing with respect to considering whether we can provide a sprinkler-only option for residents in the community who are not connected for domestic water use to our system, but who wish to connect solely for the purpose of powering a sprinkler system in their home. This has proven to be difficult for some clear reasons, all of them having to do with safety and ensuring that the domestic system is not compromised. So the recommendation that I'd like to make is that we request that staff come back with proposals that address the question of safety of other users if and when council does approve this type of connection. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Councillor Drake. So you're, I would assume, looking to move this motion?
I will move the
Yep.
motion and
Okay.
yes, and hopefully we can see a seconder and then some discussion. Yeah.
Okay, and looking for a seconder? Councillor Snell, thank you very
I'll
much.
second for discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. And Bruce, did you want to add at this point any further comments, or are you good?
No, I'm happy to listen to other comments at this
Okay.
point. I mean, this is going to be a multi-step process. It already has been, but it's what's really critical is whether we determine whether there's support from council for the idea. Thank you.
Okay, and did we want to talk to Stuart Novak about this, or have you?
Well, yeah, in fact, I should probably welcome Stuart's comments. He'd be probably the party charged with this task. So if he has comments he wants to make, yeah, certainly we should listen to them, certainly before we vote on the matter.
Okay.
Thank you through the chair. As far as addressing your concerns, it should be absolutely no problem giving a quick report as to advise of the precautions that we would require if someone was to hook up for municipal to fire sprinkler system and maintain their well water for drinking water. That should be absolutely no problem. I'm already aware of the precautions that you should be taking, and from the building code side and also from the municipal water supply side. So it should be absolutely no problem meeting your request.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
good. Thank you, Stuart. And I note that I've got Councillor Snell.
Yes, through the chair
Yep. Thank
to
you.
Councillor Drake. Presumably, we're really only talking about a handful of houses in the village that are wanting to use city water for the sprinkler and use their own well water for domestic consumption. Now, we have bylaws in place now that when a house changes hands, somebody is mandated to hook up to the potable water system. Presumably, that requirement overrides the sprinkler system. So it really will only apply to those people that are currently not on our village water system. So that anybody, as I say, as soon as if there's any other circumstance in our bylaws that compels people to hook up to city water, presumably they are obliged to hook up to the city water also if they want a sprinkler system. This clause would not grandfather through to subsequent owners. Thank you.
Councillor Drake, did you want to
Yeah, if I might reply through the chair. Yeah, Councillor Snell is absolutely correct. The only people who are currently approved to use well water would be able to take advantage of this. I expect the numbers to be extremely small. It's really a footnote provision, but it does offer some modest improvement in fire protection for the village. But Councillor Snell is absolutely correct. And no one who doesn't already live in the village and is not connected to our system, none of those people could ever take advantage of this. It would only be the small subset, which is, I believe, I'm looking at Stuart here, I believe it's between about 35% of our residents are not on the domestic system who fall within the designated area for provision. So it would have to be that subset. And every time one of those homes sells, it has to connect. So the status would disappear.
Okay, thank you. So that takes away some of the incentive because it's going to be a cost to a new owner to hook up to the city water in any event.
Yes, and if I just might add, yeah, my expectation is if Stuart, and I'm sure council will be very cautious, and Stuart, I'm sure will follow all due process with care. The reality is most of the cost of connecting to the water system will already be borne by the time a sprinkler is in. I say that assuming that, you know, a box, a meter, backflow connectors, all that sort of thing is undoubtedly going to be required. So a new owner would have to connect, but some of the investment would already have happened by the previous owner. Thank you.
Yeah, no further questions. I'll support it.
Okay, thanks very much. Looking out to the audience, anybody in the audience with a comment? Joe Elworthy. Welcome, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. I try to be as polite as I can about this, and bear with me as I do, but the motion itself is a bit disingenuous, quite frankly. I think in all fairness to staff would do all of this. Staff are not going to allow a bylaw change that would endanger the residents of this village who hooked up to water or not, and they're all involved. And I see the motion as just an appeasement motion because of a bit of a mess at a tabling motion that should never have been debated to the extent, should never have been amended the way it was, and having a councillor indeed admitting they voted the wrong way. So this, to me, this tables it in any case. This tables the motion, although our acting CAO at the last meeting, you weren't here, Councillor Drake, but his view was that this report would come forward contemporaneous to the bylaw change that was going to be proposed. And to me, well, yeah, we've already heard from staff verbally on this, and I agree with Stuart that sure, we get another report and get it in writing this time. And it really doesn't change the fact that the motion itself speaks to not requirements. Stuart speaks to requirements. Stuart doesn't speak to approaches. He speaks to requirements. And he will speak to requirements, I presume, with his professional credentialing that will, not could, but that will ensure the health and safety of the residents of this village and those who visit our parks and those who visit those who are the other users, as they're referred to. So the motion is poorly drafted, and I know when you reference it, you just flew over a lot of that stuff. But I think it isn't really required. Who's going to vote against it? Who's going to vote against that? Nobody. But you now very, very disingenuously have created where a motion that had split council previously on a tabling motion is now going to appear like council is 100% supportive of this, because of course they're going to support anything pertaining to safety. So I'm trying to be as polite as I can, and I do appreciate there's a lot, and I'm glad that Councillor Snell spoke about J7 and how that's covered off. And so I just leave it at that. They're my concerns. I think the appropriate way to address it properly and efficiently was to have the councillor who admitted that they voted the wrong way move for a reconsideration, and then it would all have been tabled, which is what we attempted to do. And then your concerns, Councillor Drake, would be addressed through the chair, of course, right? They would be addressed. Of course they would. We would totally expect. In fact, they were going to go to the provincial body to get all of the best possibilities on this. So again, they're my comments on it. And I obviously, as you can tell, I'm not impressed, but I accept that if it makes everybody feel better and we've done some good here, then of course, all in favor will be 100%. Thank you. And my apologies if I wasn't as polite as I wished I could have been. Thank you.
Councillor Drake is smiling, and we all appreciate the passion in this village, but people bring forward, members of council, in good faith, things they believe in. And you've heard Councillor Drake indicate to staff, and staff is prepared to bring a report forward. So, okay, at this point, we'll look to not seeing any further discussion. We'll look to call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and it carries in the affirmative. Okay, thank you very much. And we are now on to report from the acting chief administrative officer. Paula, on your first night, do you have anything?
I don't actually have anything to report on, as I just had the GIS and the the council correspondence report, but I just would like to thank council for putting their faith in me. I do appreciate it, and I enjoy working with all of you. So thank you again.
Okay, thank you very much, Paula. And we will go to the correspondence proclamations, and we'll look for a move by Councillor, seconded by Councillor Drake. You're
Move.
moving.
Second.
And seconded by Councillor Wilder, that 9.1 to 9.8 be received. Okay, and so we'll look to call the question on that. Everyone in favor of that receiving?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I note that it carries in the affirmative. And then we have in front of you 3 action items. So if we want, so this is the first one, is one that comes to us in a standard way each year. It's from Mohammed Azim, the Secretary Treasurer, Chief Financial Officer, letter dated June 28, 2022, regarding 2022 eligible school sites proposal resolution. And the recommended motion is that council accept the school district number 43 Coquitlam Board resolution for proposed eligible school requirements. I'll look to see if there's a councillor that will move that. Councillor Wilder.
So moved.
And Councillor Drake moving that. Any discussion? I'm not seeing any from anyone. Anybody from the audience? Not seeing anything, so look to call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. And
Aye.
that it carries in the affirmative. So thank you. We're now on to 9.2 Madeline Leaf International Wrongful Conviction Day Committee. Email dated June 21st, 22 regarding declaration of October 2nd, 2022 as Wrongful Conviction Day. And the motion recommended is that October 2nd, 2022 be declared as Wrongful Conviction Day in the village of Belcarra. And do we have a counselor who would be willing to move that? One that will,
So moved.
while they're moving. Okay, and a seconder,
I'll second.
Counselor Drake. Okay, any discussion on that? Counselor Wilder, go ahead, please.
I would like to ask our CRAB committee to see if they would be willing to put something up on our
Yeah.
on the,
The board?
I'm not sure whether they will or not. David's not here on site. It's not my decision, but I would certainly ask the directors of
We may. Counselor Wilder, I think we're losing just little parts, so. Do you want to, you're looking to, you would ask,
oh, did I cut out? I'm sorry.
you did on a little
I've
piece,
got
but I
full
think,
bars.
well, it resonated to say, so you're looking to.
I was going to ask if I was going to put a proposition to CRAB, which is Community Recreation Association of Belcarra, who manages the marquee sign, to see if they would be willing to put a marquee notice up on that day, on October 2, for International Wrongful Conviction Day Committee. And I have no bearing on any of that. I can just ask
Yeah.
and see
And
what
so-
happens.
Yeah, and you indicated that Dave Warren wasn't here tonight, but would you?
He's not here tonight, so I can't ask specifically.
Yeah.
Not that I would ask in a public meeting like this. I'd put him on notice,
Yeah,
but I would ask him privately, and then he
Yeah.
could take it to the directors of CRAB to see whether they would be willing to do that.
perfect. Good. Thank you. And
Anytime that we have an international day or a day of whatever, Memorial Day, I think it's important if we are voting on that in the village. I think
Yep.
it's really kind that we put that up on the marquee. Doesn't matter what it is. If we are voting on it in the village, I think it's
Yes.
really important that we put that up on the marquee. If we can use that village board to do that.
yeah, no, you've been very good, and I would say Dave's been quite receptive, so.
Well, it's up to the
And CRAB.
directors of CRAB.
Yep, yeah, no, I know there's a whole internal working, so anyways.
I will ask on their behalf.
Okay, good, thank you. So I'm not seeing anybody from the audience on that, so we'll look to call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. And I know
Aye.
that it carries in the affirmative. Number 9.3 is Allison Wong, Road Safety Engineer, ICBC Road Improvement Program letter received July 5th, 2022 regarding ICB cost sharing opportunities road improvement program. So, and the motion is that staff be directed to report to council on ICBC cost sharing opportunities with regard to road safety audit. And you'll notice in there, there's a fair bit in terms of that part. So do we have a counselor looking to move that, or?
Moved.
So, and is that Counselor, was that you, Counselor Drake?
It was.
Okay, good, thank you. And is there a seconder?
Second by Wilder.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any discussion on that? Counselor
Yeah.
Snell, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. It's encouraging that we had transit trying to offer us a load of money to do things, and now we've got ICBC doing exactly the same thing. The one thing that did catch my attention on the list of ICBC issues was in fact probably the 1, 2, 3, half a dozen items down. They do mention a road safety audit. And I'll quote it: ICBC will undertake road safety audits at no cost to the municipality on an existing or future road corridor or intersection. My suggestion would be that if in fact we are going to be moving in the direction of increased villager safety in our streets, then to have a safety audit would be a really good place to start. And this one actually would cost us nothing. So I would think before we start exploring cost sharing programs, that it would make sense that in fact we get a free audit to identify those areas that could be considered particularly dangerous. And of course, it was our council's mandate. It was villager safety, which was the a primary concern of council going way back. And if we go back a few meetings, in fact, Councillor Drake did list a number of items that would certainly help help our pedestrians get around the village a little more safety. So again, just at the risk of being repetitive, let's go for a free audit before we start looking at putting any dollars into any programs. Thank you.
Okay. So I think so the direction is to are we going to change what we're doing, or are we looking to have staff report to council on what the opportunities are there from ICBC?
I think report, but the one that is paramount is the first one, which is getting an audit done. I mean, before any municipality makes any changes to any roads with regard to safety, there's always a full audit done to assess the actual risks, the accident probabilities, and so on and so forth. So I would certainly push for that part first, and that would possibly help us to identify which areas we should focus on down the road. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. And so just to reiterate, staff will be contacting to find out about the broad use, and then when it comes back, we'll look to focus in. That's what you're suggesting, Councillor Snell?
That's what I'm suggesting. That would be the primary focus.
Okay, all right. Any further comments from council? Not seeing any comments from the audience? Not seeing any. I'll look to call the question, go back to council. I'll look to call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. And I know that carries and it's unanimous. And so we are now on information items 9.4, 9.5, 9.6, 9.7, 9.8. They've all been accepted and received. And are there any action anybody would like to take on any of those? Some of them are UBCM resolutions, and then others are different things.
Oh, yes,
Yes, Councillor Wilder, I believe you had something you wanted to do.
I do.
Okay.
I would like to discuss Article 9.8,
Yes,
possible.
yes,
And this was a letter that we received by one of our residents, John Wilms.
yes.
I think it's the last item. And I just wanted to be clarified, and if I can't do it through myself, through the chair or through our acting CAO, it seems like there might be a little bit of misinformation in that letter. And I wanted to be really clear to our residents. What happened here was that our wonderful CAO, Lorna, who recently departed into a retirement. She was on a medical leave and then she went into an early retirement. During her time here, we had Dennis Back, who was like, as John Williams said, he was just a breath of fresh air here. He was here on a temporary basis always during Lorna's absence, and he was always at a time where he was going to be finished. And prior to that, when we got Lorna here as our CAO, she originally came as a temporary as well on a prior CAO who went on again a medical leave and then retired early, and then Lorna was hired as her temp and then took the job. We had Paul who retired. We had another Doug who moved to Seashell. So we've had these changes in the village that were just no fault of anything of the village. And that's really I really wanted to really emphasize that. And it just seemed like I was a bit disillusioned with the letter, I must say. And I know that we responded to Mr. Wilms, but I really wanted it to be put out there and I know we don't have very many participants today, but for those that read that letter or what have you, you didn't read the response that the village gave to Mr. Wilms, but I really wanted you to know that Lorna retired and her predecessor retired, Paul retired, Doug moved, and no fault of anything of the village. And so we're actively, we have a great staff here with Paula, who's stepping in as our acting CEO. We have a fantastic staff with, the rest of them, and Connie and Brad, everybody else. Like they're fantastic. And we're holding the fort down. So, and through the chair, I'll let you possibly elaborate a little bit more on that if you can, or through anybody else that's through there. We have Stuart or Councillor Drake or anybody else, but I just want you to know that it wasn't like anyone was fired or anything like that. It was just a matter of circumstances, and it wasn't a McCoy and Hatfield or whatever. Okay, I really wanted to really set the record straight in public.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And why don't I make a comment on behalf of the village? It's interesting that, and I have a background in HR, and it is a known fact that people at some point in their working career want to retire. And there are also times that personal opportunities come up and people want to leave. But if you take the time that people have spent within our village and put it up against other villages of our size or even other municipalities, I think we are incredibly well served by a group of people that each and every day come to not just do their work, but bind together with the people around them and say, how do we make this village better? And I'm one of those believers in free speech and free expression. So we did provide a response to Mr. Wilms, but I also think it's important to talk about the other side of the coin. And the other side of the coin is we're very, very well served by our staff, and our retention rates are very, very high. And I will say this, I don't know if I saw it or it was just a glimmer, but I will say this to finish off, that when you said Paul had retired, I looked at Paula and I thought she put her head up quickly, because I don't know did you think she said Paula had retired and it was pretty short-lived, or? Anyways, thanks everybody. And, Lisa, thank you for bringing that up. And, I just think people are entitled to be able to say what they want, but we also are entitled and have a responsibility to give the other side. So anyways, thanks very much. Councillor Drake.
Thank you. Just following up on Councillor Wilder's comments. I mean, Dennis was a remarkable individual, as was our former CAO, who came in on very, very similar circumstances and decided to stay with us fortunately for us, for several years. But I just wanted to comment that Dennis did praise very highly the staff we have, and his own capabilities were very obvious. He's obviously got a talent for the type of work that CAOs carry out. And it was good to hear someone like that with virtually no vested interest comment on the quality of staff we have in Belcarra. So thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. So we are at, I think we can safely move to new business. Any new business from council? Not seeing any. We can go to public question period. Any questions from the public? We'll just wait a second and we'll note that Okay, I'm not seeing any questions from the public, so we have a 20-minute public question period, so I would take call number one. Charmaine and Garrett, are you looking to talk or is that a clap?
It's a thank you, actually. On behalf of Inlet United Church, I would like to thank Mayor Ross and Councillor Wilder for attending our open house at Inlet United Church, Catalyst, and Kinsight. And Share is also a part of our whole umbrella. And I'd like to say that the whole thing started with a dream. About 8 years ago, there were a group of people at Inlet United Church, then called St. Andrews United Church, who would not let this go. They wanted to build low-cost housing for the working people. Anyways, and then we had Catalyst come on board and we had Kinsight come on board. So we are all very, very blessed. We had the property and a few people, that's all we had, but now we have a huge, huge family of people all serving our community. So thank you very much for attending, and blessings to this council.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charmaine.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was actually my privilege to be there. Thank you,
Yeah.
Charmaine and Garrett. It was lovely to see you and Maureen and
Yeah.
all the other residents there.
Yeah, it was a real gala.
Yeah.
It
and
was.
And I think it was inspiring not only to be there, but inspiring for other groups around BC that are trying to make those difficult transitions to housing people that desperately need that housing. And I think it's really a beacon of what can be done when good people come together. So
I sure hope so. And actually BC Housing was so impressed how our group worked together that they're using it as a template now.
oh, nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well done.
Yeah.
So from our council to your group, well done. Thank you. Thank you very much, Charmaine.
You're very
And
welcome.
yeah, and thank you for entering in and sharing some of that from someone who's worked so hard.
Yeah.
I'm not, oh, go ahead, Lisa.
no, I was just saying they have worked immensely. It's just been, they've been stellar.
Yeah, no, that was good. So at this point, I'm gonna say to people that it looks like public question period has ended. And I'm gonna look for a Joe, are you on to?
No, I just show my face at the end, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
I'm still a happy camper,
Okay.
apart from my passionate outbursts. Thank you,
Okay,
thank
no,
you,
no.
everyone.
We have no doubt about the happy camper. So thank you
Oh,
very much.
okay.
And I'll look to entertain a move to adjourn by Councillor
Wilder.
Wilder and Councillor Snell. Thank you very much. And that the regular meeting be adjourned at 8:11 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thanks,
night.
everyone.
Good night. Good night, Lisa. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.